Okay, do we have a Stargazer? Yes, we do. Imperial Electronic or a Helix. This one has a bit more money. You are correct, Martel. Saxony is indeed a region of Germany. The reason why I'm leaning towards the English is because uh, they are doing like a World War One, and that's the only country that would be that's left to actually represent uh, the English. Also, the way that the uniforms are made for the Saxony are pulling more, at least in my mind, they're pulling more towards World War One English uniforms rather than the German ones. Uh, but again, I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen all of the content of the game yet, so I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be. And Saxony is indeed a region of Germany, and essentially the Germanic people are also hailing from the Anglo-Saxons that originated from the area of what is today Norway. So the Anglo-Saxon people migrated, and the reason why I know this is because it's part of my job, my day job. So the Saxony in Germany is actually the Anglo-Saxons. So the same people that actually ended up in UK, those people migrated all over the place. Essentially, half of Europe was Anglo-Saxons. Just don't tell that to the British people because they're gonna get upset if you tell them that they're the root of the same people as the French. But they are.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Okay, Galaxy, then by all means, go get some rest then. Thanks for stopping by. If you feel like it, join me on Sunday for the last Oni stream, and then next week we'll be playing something else. Have a good rest.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay. Okay, so see ya. See ya, Galaxy. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Always appreciate it, mate. Okay, so the Stargazer is not really difficult. The only thing I'm having difficulty with on this bloody ship is its reactor because of the way that it's placed. And I've been toying with several ways of dealing with that reactor. But each time I'm very narrowly escaping meltdown. The placement of the reactor on this ship is cataclysmic. Oh, wrong way. Oh, this one has a dish on the underside as well. Ooh, did I cut it? Oh, I didn't. Perfect. The only thing I kind of dislike about the Company of Heroes, not Company of Heroes, what am I thinking? About Iron Harvest, at least in its build that's currently available, is it seems to me, I haven't played the game myself, so I might be wrong, and it might be just how the recording was. It seems that the textures are kind of lit too high, so that either the lighting system in the game is making the game too bright, or the textures need better shading. One or the other. I'm not really sure. I'll be able to tell for certain actually when I actually play the game myself. But the texture work, at least on the infantry and the map itself, seems to be seems to be needing some work. That's something that can be easily patched in the next version of the game, but it's just something I noticed. I'm not really a fan of it. In the olden times, again, me showing my age, it was done that way because the games like RTS games couldn't really handle complex lighting models just because of how many units were on the screen and having to render all of them. So if you then force the game to calculate shadows and lighting for every single one of those units, which could be easily hundreds of, uh, then your computer would commit seppuku. Just couldn't handle it.
Salvage secured. Credits
But that's not the
deposited.
case anymore. And Iron Harvest doesn't have that many units on screen. So I'm guessing that it's just because it's still early. Although it's been released, but I'm not really sure if it's
Thermal
a
pressure levels
full
dropping.
release or it's an early release. Haven't really checked.
Airlock pressure levels increasing.
But it's definitely a game that I want to play. Ooh, they added some lighting mod. Look at this atmospheric. This is gorgeous. They did a wonderful job adding some more atmospheric effects. Oh, I didn't bring the utility key. That is a very good point, Martel. That it might be that it was just the settings, the graphical settings on the recording that I watched of the guy who was playing it. I only saw one because I didn't want to spoil too much for myself. I just wanted to see how the game was playing. So I only watched the guy play first mission, and I can't remember who it was that was playing it, but he was playing it very, very poorly. As in, he was playing it like it was a Command and Conquer game instead of a Company of Heroes game. So it didn't have any. He didn't have a concept of taking cover, even though the concept of taking cover was explained in that very level, and it kind of annoyed me. It annoys me when people play games incompetently, not wrongly. You can play a game any way you'd like to, but when you're just being plain incompetent about it. You know, when a game explains to you a concept and you don't grasp it. Uh, there was a very good example of a guy playing before I could
Air
afford my
pressure
own
levels increasing.
PS3. I watched the walkthrough of God of War 3. Was it God of War 3? I think it was. Uh, on YouTube, and the guy who was playing it was pissing me off because after he got
Airlock pressure levels
the
dropping.
bow, he kept using the bow for every single enemy for the next 3 hours. And I was like, why? It's a situational weapon. It's only good
Air
against
pressure levels
weaker,
increasing.
mostly flying enemies and those little parasites. Why are you trying to kill minotaurs with it? There isn't, I checked, there isn't even achievement or anything special to get. And even if there was, why would you record a playthrough? Because for the next 3 hours he spent using the bow,
Oxygen
which is a
reserves are
weak
low.
ass weapon, to
Reminder,
kill every strong
activity
monster in the
continues
game,
to miss
and it
salvage
took
quotas.
ages. It was clumsy, it was clunky, it was, I don't know what he was thinking, and it was just those kind of things annoy me. That's why I make a point when I'm playing games, both for my channel, for my walkthroughs, and
Oxygen levels
for my
stabilizing.
streams, I know what I'm doing. I'm not the best at it, far from it. There are plenty of people who can play these games better than I can a million times over, but I know what I'm doing. At least to the degree where I'm not embarrassing myself by pressing the wrong buttons. And it is my belief that if you are doing a
Air pressure
stream,
levels
or if you
increasing.
are doing YouTube channel. Blind playthroughs are fine, but I want the person doing it to have a concept of at least knowing what he's doing, that he's done it at least once, that he's not, just yanking my chain around. It's a different thing on a stream when the streamer and his audience are trying to solve a puzzle or a riddle, and it is that everybody is involved in that process. But if you're just going to randomly stumble about in a video of a playthrough that you've put, and a playthrough would signify, to me at least, that you know where you're going, you're just wasting my time and everybody else's time doing some random thing. If you want to do a random thing, do it in your own time. If you're putting a playthrough up, you need to cover the majority of your audience, and the majority of your audience wants to know that you at least have a semblance of an idea of what you're doing. For which game is that the acronym, Martel? MC. There are plenty of games that have an MC as an acronym. Which ones are you referring to? Minecraft. If you are talking about Minecraft, yes, I completely agree with you there. Especially Minecraft, because Minecraft is, for the most part, that is a game where you can do whatever you want in. But if you are trying to show something to people in a video, just yeah, I thought so. If you're doing a Minecraft video, have a general idea of what you're actually doing before you start doing it. And if you don't know, I hope that you're entertaining. I've played way too much Minecraft. I think I still have screenshots on my Facebook from the earliest alpha. I started playing Minecraft when it was in its earliest alphas. Back when you only had the basic blocks. I fell in love with the game, and it's probably one of my all-time favorite games ever. Minecraft is whenever I'm stuck in a position where I don't know what to play, or that I just need a rest from the whatever game I'm playing at that time, I always go for Minecraft. It's a wonderful, wonderful game. It's a funny thing that you've mentioned actually losing something in their inventory, because there have been remakes of some games that are very heavy on inventory management. For example, the new Resident Evil remakes of the Resident Evil 2 and the Resident Evil Nemesis, where you had limited inventory, and managing your inventory properly in Resident Evil and the remakes is a big thing. It's important because you need to be smart about what weapons you're gonna bring with you, what items you need, what key items you need, so that you don't have to expose yourself to unnecessary danger when going from area 1 to area 2. And I watched several playthroughs of Resident Evil remakes, and the moment I see somebody fidgeting around their inventory, not knowing what they need to bring, that's the point where they lose me. I immediately switch to something else, because I know that they have no idea what they're doing. Because anybody who played any of the Resident Evils knows from a single playthrough what they need to bring and when. Because that's how the game is built. The game is built that you struggle the first time around, but every time after that you will know exactly what you need to bring, where and when. That's the whole point. Yeah, the modded experience in Minecraft. I've mentioned this on a previous stream. I prefer to play games vanilla, but I'm not opposed to modding. By all means, I am a great supporter of mods, and I hope that every game gets mod support in the future. It should be mandated that mod support should be allowed for every game. But Minecraft can get so much more depth from the mods because their mods are not so much mods. I would argue that in Minecraft, mods are closer to total conversions than mods. For those who don't know, total conversions are something that doesn't exist in gaming anymore. And total conversion was essentially what it sounds like. You would take a game and you would convert it into something else. Uh, One of the more popular conversions in the olden days was Unreal Tournament conversion, which turned the game into Dragon Ball Z game. Minecraft is one of the very, very few games left today where mods are going to the extent of a total conversion, where some of the mods can, as you say, Martel, they can pretty much turn the game into completely different experience than what it was originally made with in mind and with original concepts it had when it was released. And that's beautiful. To be able to do something like that with a game is
Salvage
marvelous.
secured.
What am I doing? Okay, that was a bad press on me. I want to cancel the tether and I've
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
ejected the cannon in the process. But fortunately, I have not made too much damage. I myself, when it comes to Minecraft, the whole idea that I can build my own world, uh, quite literally, was what's appealing to me because I am a creative person more than anything else. And to be able to have my own world was magnificent.
Valuable object
But
processed. Credits
I will tell
awarded.
you what impressed me about Minecraft the most. It wasn't the scale. It wasn't even what you could do in the game.
Salvage secured. Account credit
I
applied.
originally played Minecraft in single player because I was still in college when the game was in alpha and I couldn't get on any servers back then because I didn't have internet in my apartment because I was renting and I was on a second floor and landlord didn't want to share his internet with me, so I didn't have internet. And this was before the age of mobile internet being what it is today. Today you can have mobile internet pretty much anywhere and you can hotspot. Yeah, when I was in college back in 2005, that wasn't really the case. You couldn't. Mobile internet was something that you had on a dongle, like on USB, and it was very, very fidgety and very problematic and very expensive. Couldn't afford that. So I played in single player. And what impressed me most about the game was its soundtrack, because no other game that I've ever played in my 30 plus years of life has ever made me feel so truly alone
Salvage
and
deposit
lonely in a
accepted.
world
Credits transferred.
than Minecraft did. When certain tunes started playing, the music in Minecraft is so masterfully done that you feel melancholic sadness playing the game, and that is a work of sheer genius. For a game to be able to make me feel alone and relishing it, to give you that feeling of being alone in a world that you can define as you see fit, that is something not many games can say about themselves. It is remarkable. And it hasn't been topped yet. Nobody managed to outdid that. There are plenty of games that are like Minecraft. Some even pull uh, the whole
Valuable
crafting the
object
world
processed.
thing better than Minecraft
Credits
does.
deposited.
But the feel that the Minecraft gives you, especially when you're playing it alone, that has not been topped, in my opinion, yet.
Deposit not accepted.
Aluminum panel. Doesn't matter. Yeah, the music is extremely, as you say, it is extremely fitting. Uh, the guy, what was his name? C16 or something like that? I can't remember what his actual uh, handle is. I think it was C16 or C18 or something like that. The music is very simple. It's ambienting. Very, it's very situational, and it hits the spot every single time. You don't feel that so much in multiplayer, simply because of how the multiplayer works. But in single player, oh yeah, you feel it, and you feel it right.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
Did I miss any other cut points? Yes, I did.
Object not accepted.
What?
Revisit user.
Oh, crapola, there was another sensor tower I missed. Oh well. There was a yeah, there was one more sensor tower on top and I didn't notice that one. Oh well. I made a boo-boo. Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it, Martel. It is simple and very memorable. It is something that you feel as well as you listen to. It's not something that many games can say about themselves. Well, Minecraft, well, Factorio is actually one of the games I was considering to play next, and it's like one of my long list of games that I'm considering to play as of next week. Uh, Factorio is actually missing a good soundtrack. Right now, I don't think it even has a soundtrack, even though it's released. Factorio, I've played Factorio as well for a very long time, since its earlier, not earliest, but earlier releases. I think I started playing. It was before the Canon trains. I think when the tank was released, that's when I started playing. I like Factorio's
Warning. Your
apparent complexity, because if you play Factorio for any amount of time, you will very quickly learn that it has a very, very streamlined gameplay, which is good, because you can adapt yourself to it very quickly and you can learn it very quickly. But you don't really break new ground each time you play it. Essentially, every game loop is the same. It's just the territory that changes, which is fine for its concept because you can play it as you're used to and just adjust to the terrain, which is a challenge in itself, and I like that. It works well for Factorio, especially since it has a combat mechanic as well. The only thing I don't like about Factorio is that it lacks proper multiplayer. You have co-op, but I would like if it could have proper multiplayer, which means like a 50 plus server that you can leave and players can join, and a so it's a growing thing as opposed to being a static thing, because right now it is very static. You you can generate infinite number of maps, but it is very static. It is like, yeah, exactly, it's an optimization game. You you could argue, and I've made the point in one of my Oni streams, is that Oni is similar in that regard. Is that each time you play it, you're just trying to make it better than you did last time, which is fine. Which that's one of the selling points of those types of games to begin with. Factorio is simpler than Oni in most aspects, but it is also more dynamic. It is more. It allows you to play it in a more streamlined fashion. You don't spend so much time observing the situation as you do in Oni, for example, since you constantly have to do combat, you have to do other things, and you have actual. Oh, no tethers available.
Tethers depleted.
So it is more streamlined. Both games, what I like about Factorio and Oni and games like that is that there is no one correct way to play it. You can play it. I've mentioned it before. You can play it in a million different ways, and all of them would be fine, which is wonderful. Because as long as you learn the concepts of how everything works properly, you can adjust the game to your own liking. You can make the factories any way you'd like to.
All right, Cutter, you got 5 minutes left of this shift before they turn the lights out on you. Pitter patter. We wrap.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
Get in. I was wondering if Factorio would ever actually get out of its limbo, because it was being released, it was being developed for such a long time in early access. And there are many, many games out there that are pretty much forever in that early access loop and they're never being released.
Credits awarded.
I was being cautious about it because a lot of games end up stuck there and never get released, not properly anyway.
Secured. Credits deposited.
Fortunately, Factorio turned to be just fine. So why is this connected together? Huh. Oh well. I still hope the developers will make that I can disassemble these things so I can pull them off. What exactly is holding you back? Is it this? I haven't flushed the fuel. I almost broke it. I almost broke it. I haven't flushed the fuel. Yeah, I know. Factorio is being developed by a very small team of developers, and that's a fair point to make. But when you are managing a small team, yeah, the long development time is perfectly reasonable when you have a small development team. But when you are a developer, and this is something I know because I've worked with several development teams because as an artist, you have to be reasonable about what you're actually trying to accomplish, because if your game spends too much time in development, it essentially becomes rendered obsolete and unrelevant. Uh, I've been working with some people on a game concept for a number of years now, and quite recently I will be honest, right now I'm not holding my breath about it anymore. I was very enthusiastic about it for a number of years, but essentially the people making the game are just not accomplishing anything. It's a constant loop of thinking about adding new features and making this or that. There is no clear roadmap, there is no clear objective, there is no clear development process. And that's something that's dangerous, because if you allow yourself to be stuck in that loop, then you find yourself in a position where your game is no longer relevant. And if that happens, then you no longer have a product to sell, which means that your project ends up dead in the water. This is something that has plagued games for a long time, and even big developers have sometimes fallen into the trap. Although this title isn't as well known today as it was in the 90s, there was a once upon a time there was a game that was developed by a major developer. That game was called Daikatana, which I believe I've mentioned once before on one of my streams. Now, Daikatana wasn't being developed by newbies. It was developed by pretty much the biggest name in the first-person shooter business at the time, for people who made Doom, essentially. But because they didn't have a clear idea of what they do, and because they didn't have a clear roadmap, and because they kept changing their mind of what they want the game to be for the entire duration of the development process, the game was a flop. It took 2 extra years long in development because they switched to a different engine mid development, uh, and it was a flop. It was just not good enough because they couldn't. What the game had was a very rich concept that was not developed properly, that couldn't be done properly at the time. And like I said, the game wasn't being developed by a small team, it was developed by a big team of people who essentially knew what they were doing before. But they ended up in that loop, in that development loop, where they just wanted to add more, add bigger, add more extravagant. And in the end, it naturally turned out a failure. Because if you try to do too much, you don't do anything in the end. Another game that got burned like this as well is Duke Nukem Forever. Duke Nukem Forever was originally scheduled for 1997, I believe. 1997 or 1998. Of course, it didn't, because that game switched 3 different engines before it was released. It was being I think the end development time for that game was 12 years. 12 years. And one of the developers at 3D Realms, who was making Duke Nukem Forever at the time, said that all they did was playing catch up with other developers because Half-Life was released, blew everything else out of the water. So Duke Nukem had to be bigger, had to be greater, had to be more explosive, more of everything, more than anybody else was doing at the time. Same thing. They ended up in the same development loop. They couldn't make up their mind. They couldn't make a set goal. They couldn't get one thing sorted, and the game was never developed. Factorio, fortunately, wasn't caught in that loop, because while they were in development for a longer time, they constantly had a stream of content being released, which means that they at least had a very clear vision of what they wanted to achieve, at least from the outset, what the basic idea was. If they didn't have that, then the game would end up like so many. Just look at Steam Greenlight. Just go through the list on the Steam Greenlight and check out the games that are there. Check how long some of them have been developed, and check what the progress of some of them was. You will be astonished on the incredible sea of potential, of potentially awesome titles being lost completely because they've been just stuck in a development loop that will never be completed. As a developer, you have to have a basic plan. This is what I want to do. This is what we want to do. And this is how we're going to do it. If you don't have that, your game will never be released. It will be stuck in development limbo forever. People will sometimes tell you that in the older games were always better. They weren't. there the same amount of crap being released then as it is now. Well, less because it took longer to develop a game. Well, not longer, but it took more effort to develop a game because publishers weren't so readily available. But people weren't afraid to experiment, and they are now. Developers today are afraid to experiment. They just don't want to take any chances. Only the things that are tried and tested are being released. Everything that's different, out of the ordinary, not following the same path gets thrown out, and people don't want to look at it. It takes a revolutionary to gather enough courage to do something original. You want a good example of that? Fall Guys. If you were working for Activision, do you think that your bosses would take a concept of Fall Guys and run with it? No. They're too busy figuring out what microtransactions they can fit into the newest Call of Duty game, which will be exactly the same as the previous Call of Duty game. And I like Call of Duty, and I'm aware of that.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Everybody who likes games, here is a very simple piece of advice. Follow the independent developers. Don't be blinded, don't be blind about it, don't stupidly give them all of your money. No, but watch them. Watch the small developers. Watch what they do. The games that are fun, the games that are out there, the games that are original, the games that are just pure, unadulterated fun, I can almost guarantee you will always come from a small indie developer, not a big one. Yeah, pretty much it's like that, yeah. It indie developers, for the most part, make better games for one very simple reason. It's not technology or the manpower. It is that indie developer, an independent developer or a small developer makes something because he likes it, because he finds pleasure in his idea. He has an idea and he wants it to become a reality. The idea might not be popular, it might not be something for everybody, but he likes the idea and he wants to make it. I made a mistake.
Electrical damage. Note that
Ouch.
excess electrical damage has been found to negatively impact long-term job satisfaction.
Yeah, that's you make a good point. Music is like that as well. We remember the good ones and we don't think about the bad ones, even though the bad ones happen just as well as the good ones did. I guess it's in human nature, I suppose, to try to always remember the good ones. Please don't blow up.
Reactor meltdown triggered. Action urgently required.
I'm going down with it.
Warning. Oxygen reserves are
Ah,
low.
perfect. There we go. Okay, so this is one of the more direct ways of getting the reactor out of this type of ship. Essentially, if you use the regular, not the split saw, but the regular burner, the regular cutter, you can cut the vent pipe without actually causing it to leak all over, so it doesn't damage the rest of the ship. It's not perfect, it doesn't work all the time, but it seems to work most of the time. Okay, now I can get all of the... Ooh. And we can get the ECU out. Thing is, people are being... when it comes to video games today, people are being very cynical. Like all of the games today are crap. No. There are plenty of wonderful games being released almost on a monthly basis. It's just people don't give them a chance because it's, they only see what Ubisoft and what Activision and developers like what they put out. There are plenty of crap games going out there, but there are plenty of good ones as well. You just need to know where to look. And it's considering that we have the beauty of the internet, it's easy to know where to look. There are plenty of good games out there, some short, some long. Sometimes it just takes a bit of interest and you discover a great game. For me, a good example of this is when I discovered Art on Ellico. Now, Art on Ellico is a JRPG, so it's a Japanese role-playing game. It's the first one was on PS2, and I've never played Art on Ellico before, and it had good reviews, and it had an interesting concept, and I said, yeah, I'm gonna try it. Turns out it's one of the best JRPGs I've ever played. I love Art on Ellico, the whole series. The third one is a bit weak, but it's still a great one, and I still like to replay it whenever I can. It's an awesome little game. As far as JRPG goes, it's probably one of my favorites, just because of the very, very original concept that it has.
Cutter, there's 5 minutes remaining in this shift. Get in while the getting's good. We wrap.
There is currently a game that's in early access and that I'm seeing a lot of mixed reactions for, that I myself am interested in. It's called Craftopia. If you have seen it, then you know what I'm talking about. If you have not seen it, check it out. I'm not telling you to buy it. If anything, I'm telling you not to buy it right now. But you should at least check it out. It is interesting, to say the least. Why I say that? Well, the game is the game has a very good concept. Essentially, it's a crafting game, and you have a vast variety of things you can craft in. You can craft, architecture, weapons, tools, even spells, magic. But pretty much all of the game's content is... Ooh, no, 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 not... Oh, crap, I'm losing it. Come back, I don't want to lose you. You're expensive, come back! Come back! No! I'm losing it.
Deposit accepted.
Crap. All of the Craftopia's games are flipped assets, so assets taken or either bought or taken from other games and flipped to be used in that game. And it's interesting because half of the game looks like the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where I'm guessing that some of the assets were flipped from there. The game engine was definitely flipped from there. And most of the heads-up display seems to have been stolen from Dragon Quest Builders 2. A lot of the character models and head models and haircuts and all of the customization, they seem to have been flipped from several other games. So it's an asset flip game, but it has a good idea and a good concept, and it seems to be quite fun. But it's an asset flip. You know, asset flips are games for... Ouch. Those are games that are made to get quick money out of people. Oh, Martel, the Lost Ark. Do you mean the Ark, the survival game, or is this a separate thing? Because I know that Ark is been in development limbo for a very, very, very long time. I mean, they already released a PlayStation or a console version of the game, and they're still being in development. I don't know if Ark will ever leave the development limbo.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
In Ark, it's some of the animations are. That's the thing that I was referring to before. When it's stuck so long in development limbo, the developer wants to make money off the game, but the game itself isn't finished. And Ark is actually a good example of this, because they release new content for Ark, which is more new dinosaurs and new tools and stuff. But those don't have fleshed out animations yet. They don't have fleshed out textures yet. They don't have. Sometimes the whole edition is actually quite broken, but they put it in anyway because they need to sell more games, because that's how they keep fueling their. Oh, come on. That was a glitch. That wasn't me. And now everything inside is burning.
Warning. Your oxygen
Salvage destroyed. Please avoid damaging valuables.
Yep. That's a wrecked ship. Well, couldn't help it. Ah, the Korean one, the Ark. Yeah, I know the game that you're referring to. I haven't played any MMORPGs in quite a while, but I do know what that you're referring to. Yeah. That one has been stuck in a limbo for quite some time. In fact, one of the reasons why I'm not getting it is because I'm not confident in its development cycle, because they are filling well, a lot of Korean games are doing the same thing. They're filling the game with microtransactions and purchasable items, while the game itself is lacking some serious polish, which doesn't bring much confidence in me. I am of opinion that I'm only willing to give money to a game that has at least 80% of its primary mechanics complete. Uh, for example, I was willing to give money for Minecraft, because even in its early alpha state, it was more than just playable. It was working almost glitch free. There were a couple of blocks that didn't work correctly, but the game itself was working without any serious faults. Uh, I am never going to pre-purchase a game made by Activision, for example, because Activision doesn't make games. It makes DLCs. It makes content to be sold. And it has been doing that for the last 10 years at the very least. Blizzard is the same. I like Blizzard, I like their games, but they've become more than anything else a money hungry company that doesn't really care about their products anymore. I mean, what they did with Warcraft Reforged is shameful. It is absolutely shameful.
Credits deposited.
So for those who don't know, Warcraft Reforged is it's a remake, or a better say, it's a remaster of Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 is one of my favorite real-time strategy games of all time. I loved Warcraft. It was one of my first RTSs. I've played Warcraft before I played Command and Conquer.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
What they did with that remaster is nothing short of shameful. It was a complete money grab, and it did nothing but screw over everybody involved.
Salvage secured.
So I'm going
No
to
credit applied.
enlighten you on why that is. When they made Reforged, keep in mind that Warcraft 3 was still being sold as a separate game. When Reforged came out, if you bought Reforged, then your old version of Warcraft 3, the unmastered version, would no longer work. The remastered version is absolutely hideous. It looks like somebody was hired to make all the game models and didn't know what he was doing. So the game is very, very ugly. It's uglier than the original. Uh, it is also, when the moment you purchase the Reforged, the original Warcraft 3 that you owned before then no longer works. You can no longer play it.
Secured. Account credit applied.
Not only that you can no longer play it, if you get Reforged, don't like it, and then you would like to go back to the Warcraft 3 that you had before, you can't, even though you've paid for it. And then on top of it all, Warcraft 3, which has a very rich community of modders, which made tons upon tons of custom content, all of that doesn't work on the Reforged and will just break the game if you try to. So the whole thing is a major fiasco. It is shameful.
Raw material processed. Credits deposited.
Yeah, Marcel, that's actually that what you described there. That's a basic business model that virtually all MMORPGs from Korea and the Asian region do. Essentially, I've played my very first Korean MMO in 2001, I think it was. I can't remember anymore. I couldn't afford World of Warcraft, so I played free-to-play Korean-based MMOs. So I played Cabal, I played Silk Road, I played Perfect World, I played pretty much all of them. And that's the basic model. Essentially, they make different releases for different markets, and each market has its own selling points. They do that for a very clever reason, and that is that each market has different things that they want and like. For example, some of the cosmetics that you have available in the Asian region are not really popular in the western part, so there's no point in selling it here. So it's a very smart business practice. But it's also indubitably because, oh, let's earn the most possible money we possibly can. Also, they have to do it like that because certain things that are legal in Europe or in North America are illegal in Asia and vice versa. So they have to make changes for that.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
You have to adapt the model where they're selling the game, which makes perfect sense when you think about it. But it also means that some things that you like will not be available in your region. What the hell was that? That was a new sound. It was very freaky and it was scary. I liked it, but it was also very, very terrifying.
Salvage secured.
I think that the game that had the most releases of the Korean ones that I've played was... I think that one is still actually active out there. It's called Vindictus. It's one of the first hacky slashy MMOs I actually played. It's really good. At least it was good. I don't know if it still is. Vindictus, I think, had 8 versions that it was being released for. I don't know if all 8 are still active or only just a few ones are. When it was originally released, it had 8 versions of it. Several for a single market because of... to be honest, I can't really remember. It's been a long time ago.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
So this is one of those ships that we will have to cut to pieces.
Oxygen reserves are low. Reminder, asphyxiation can lead to missed salvage quotas.
Yes. I still have a minute of oxygen left. I'm fine. Vindictus, if you ever get the chance to try it out, it's free to play. So it's you have nothing to lose to try it out. It was the very first hacky slashy MMO that I've played of that type. Uh, if it's difficult to compare it to anything, it had for its time it had a bunch of original concepts that are very common today, but back then they were original. For example, when you were fighting bosses, if you were fighting bosses with friends, you could get certain items to help you fight the boss together. For example, chains with hooks, so you can keep the boss in place while the others would hack and slash of it. It was uh, it was quite revolutionary for its time. It was pretty much no, I won't say unnoticed, but it was not that well known in Europe simply because in that time the market was saturated with MMOs because everybody were trying to be the next World of Warcraft. Even Warcraft was trying to be the next World of Warcraft. And if you don't know what I mean, check out the Burning Crusade, which is basically just a reskin of World of Warcraft. You think I'm joking? No. Go check all the content added for Burning Crusade. It's all just reskins and palette swaps of existing armors, weapons, and enemies, and they added some new stats to it. It's very, very lazy. I mean, it was a money grab. That's all it was. It had some story progression to it, but not much. Guild Wars, it was and still is amazing. It has a very active community. The first one not so much these days anymore, but not because of the lack of interest, uh, but more due to the lack of support because it's been getting so old these days. I know that there are some private servers running it as well. Guild Wars 2, however, is flying high. I think as long as people are interested in playing Guild Wars 2, that game will never die. Guild Wars 2 did several things very correctly. Like, it made the grind more bearable because it wasn't that important to get to the highest level because the highest level was 21. It was more, and the combat was more about combination of what you have instead of spamming what you have. That's something I always disliked about World of Warcraft. Even in its raid system, the combat is all about who's gonna be spamming what at what point. That's all that combat is in World of Warcraft. I'm not saying that it isn't fun and that it can't be fun, but that's all it is. Let's be honest about it. World of Warcraft is about having a party of people who are going to be spamming buttons and call that a combat. That's what World of Warcraft is. And I'm not saying that that can't be fun. It can be. It's just not for me. I was never really impressed with World of Warcraft. I wanted to be because I was a big fan of the Warcraft lore and the world. Warcraft were as strategy games. Warcraft was always more fondly kept in my heart than most other strategy games. But World of Warcraft just didn't do it for me. It just wasn't. It just wasn't it. Yeah, the ArenaNet is still supporting the first Guild Wars. That's very true, and hopefully they will keep supporting it. Thing is, today developers are not. They're not supporting their games as much as they should be. I'm going to
Valuable object
switch the genre on you a bit.
deposited.
Yeah, exactly. The Wolves raid combat is more about positioning and timing than combinations. You're absolutely correct, Martel, and that's what I didn't really like about it, because it was just you stand there, you stand there, you spam this, you spam that, and that's it. I just I never liked the whole concept of that point and click combat. It just didn't work for me well. I was never fan of it. I was fan of the Warcraft storyline. I was a fan of the world, but the combat system in World of Warcraft just wasn't working for me. It was the standard combat system in MMORPGs at the time, but I didn't like it with other games either. The only games that had tolerable combat for me back in the day were Cabal and Vindictus. And that's because they had a different combat style. All the pointy clicky combat thingy, that just doesn't work for me. That gets tedious very, very quickly. Indeed, they do. That's why I liked Korean MMOs, because they have that different approach to combat in a video game, and they again they weren't afraid to experiment.
Let's put a button on
Uh,
the shift.
Deposit accepted.
they weren't afraid to test out new things, which is important when you're trying to break new ground in a video game. Activision does things safely. That's what I don't like about them anymore. Blizzard does it as well. Blizzard was the first one to try out new things before. Now, no. Whatever sells. Whatever sells. They're not even trying to develop their games properly anymore.
Salvage deposit accepted.
A lot of their games get released in a very shoddy condition.
Salvage
Oh,
secured.
how much?
Credits deposited.
That thing didn't go into the furnace yet. We'll do one more shift and we'll call it a day. Let's end the stream and the Shipbreaker on a high note. I was wasting a lot of time because I spent so much time rambling. Just fine. It's not that I had anything new to show. The important thing about we're close as well. About this ship was showing how to get the reactor out safely, which I did. You will notice that Blizzard is not the only one held by the balls by Activision, and that's a nice way of putting it. The problem is that in the early days of game development, it was pretty much just the publisher and the developer who were having the last say about what the game is going to be. Today it's not. Today you have shareholders, and the company has to make certain promises to the shareholders about the projected profits. And then the shareholders ask, okay, so what will you do to guarantee those projected profits? And they say, well, we see that this is currently popular, so we will be doing the same with our game, which will do it better than the others did, and that will guarantee those profits. And
Credits deposited.
that's why you don't see Activision doing anything original anymore. Think about it. What was the last original game Blizzard or Activision made? Can you think of a one single original game Activision or Blizzard made in recent years? I'll wait. Can you think of one?
Account credit applied.
Whoopsie. Something blew up.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Activision used to be a developer. Today, they are a publisher. They don't make games anymore, they just publish them. And they only publish games that they can be reasonably certain will be selling. Which is fine and dandy, you're a company, you're allowed to do that. But at the very least what you could do is you could make sure that what you're releasing has a certain quality about it.
Credits transferred.
Which they don't. And why they don't? Because they tell their development teams, listen, we want you to make this, this, and this, and it has to have this, this, and this. You have 10 months to make it. Or in Call of Duty, you have 3 years to make it. We don't care what else is going on in your lives. We want this done, and it has to be done by then.
Account credit applied.
And while they're doing that, then they will tell, oh, but also you have to help these other guys on this other project that they're doing alongside of you, because theirs is has to be ready next year, and they're only halfway finished. So of course, when a game is released by Activision, it is full of bugs, it's full of glitches, barely works properly, doesn't have any balance whatsoever if it's a multiplayer game, and even in that state they're still trying to sell you 15 other things that they just thought that could be popular. Exactly, not since Activision bought Blizzard, because the moment Activision bought Blizzard, Blizzard lost all creative direction, because they no longer make the call. They no longer make the choices.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
At this point, developers can only make something new and radical if the publishers leave them alone. Case in point is oh, forgot. I don't play Battle Royale games, so I can't remember the name. The Respawn Entertainment's Battle Royale game, that competed with Fortnite. I'm not into Battle Royale. Help me out here. What was the name of the game? By Respawn.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
The one that's happening in Titanfall universe. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't like Battle Royale games, so oh, you can't recall the name either. Hold on. This is gonna bug me if I don't find out. Battle Royale. So it wasn't the PUBG, it was the Apex Legends. That's the one, Apex Legends. That's the one I was talking about, the Apex Legends. I don't play Battle Royale games, so I don't know. Yeah, so it was the Apex Legends. Now, I don't play the game, so I won't comment about how good or bad it is, because I honestly don't care about Battle Royale games. But there is a point to be made of why it was a success. That year, while they were making Apex Legends, remember that they are owned by EA. And the reason why they managed to make such a high quality game such as Apex Legends is because EA was leaving them alone and didn't interfere with them, because their game for that year was Anthem, and they were focusing on Anthem. Anthem was the game that they were promising profits to their shareholders to. So they didn't care about what Respawn was doing with Apex. They didn't even know about Apex existence, or if they did, they didn't care about its development. As a result, turns out when the publishers are not making the decisions, developers can make quite a decent game. That's why Apex was a success. That's why Apex made something of itself. That's why Apex was able to compete with Fortnite, because the publishers left the developers alone to their own devices, so they could do things that they actually know how to do well. And with that monitor to the helmet or whatever I smacked myself in the head into, we will be ending tonight's stream. Yeah, Anthem was being developed for that year. So essentially, the publishers have a title in mind several years before release,
Warning.
and then
Oxygen reserves are low.
they give their developer teams that are working under them or development houses uh, the development houses a contract of what they need to do and by when it has to be done. For Activision with Call of Duty, it's 3 years, so it's a 3-year development
Oxygen
cycle.
levels stabilizing.
So they have 3 development houses: the Raven, uh, Infinity Ward, and what's the third one? Can't remember. Also noteworthy is that those 3 development houses made brilliant games when they were being left to their own devices, but since they no longer call the shots, they're doomed to making COD clones every single year. And that's pretty much it. So we are ending the stream here. So this is a limited lives play career. Ooh, I didn't salvage enough of these. Probably because I destroyed half of it in that accident. It was glitched. Okay. Yeah, the Respawn is making a lot of creative games when they're being left alone. That's the point. That's the key point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah, exactly. When they're being left to their own devices, developers can do amazing things. When the publishers are making the call, they cannot. That's the point I'm trying to make. A lot of problems today with games that are being underdeveloped or developed incorrectly is because publishers stick their nose too high development's throat, and developers can't do jack crap because they have to account for every single decision that their higher ups made. Okay, let's see. And yeah, so this is where we're going to be ending the stream. Like I said several times tonight, I'm going to stretch for a moment. Yeah, we will be ending the Shipbreaker streams here. We will be returning to the Shipbreaker when they release new ships. Until they release new ships, there is nothing else for me to show you. I did every type of ship at least twice. We did the station hoppers, we did the light cargo, heavy cargo, we did the science vessel, the stargazer, and yeah, that's it. And we did both on the mackerels and the geckos. So this is where we will be ending it. Join me on Sunday for the last Oni stream. And I say last, I don't mean last eternally, just for now. We will be returning to these games when there's new content to show off. And as of next week, we will be playing something else. What? Well, I'll tell you when I find out because I haven't made a clear decision yet. Galaxy and Martel here were already tilting my mind towards Factorio as well. And then there was RimWorld, and I definitely will be playing Iron Harvest, but that's next month. So we will see. I'll make a decision, and when I know, you will all know. So, everybody, thanks for everybody who joined me today and watched me and listened to me ramble. I hope that my rambling wasn't too annoying. If it was, I am sorry. I will keep rambling anyway. And wherever you are in the world, have a good evening, good morning, good day, good night, and I'll see you next time. See ya.